So welcome back to another podcast episode of In the Mix. I'm Tom, the founder of Snap, and today I've got my two strategists, Marcus, marketing strategist, and Charlie, a brand strategist.
Hello.
In the Mix is a podcast all about brand, marketing, life in the Channel Islands, and just general business nonsense that we like to chat. Today I've got a few different scenarios planned out for Marcus and Charlie to go through. So I'm going to play host and just drop the grenade in the middle and let these two
Game on.
out. So jumping straight into it, scenario number one is all about logos and branding. So a client thinks rebranding is just changing the logo. How do we shift their thinking and educate them about a brand as a whole?
Over to you, Charlie.
I think, this is a common misconception that branding is just aesthetics and how things look. I think when a client has that kind of perspective, sometimes it's probably easy to kind of look at the well-known brands and get them to kind of think of what they feel when they think of that brand. And generally it's not, I think of Nike and I feel a tick. Like I think of Nike and I feel powerful. Oh, who's it for? Oh, it's for these target groups, and they'll name all of their audience. They might name some of their messaging that they know very well. And that's all the stuff that makes up a brand. So kind of repositioning that into your clients' minds that, a brand is so much deeper than just the aesthetics. That really is the cherry on the top. I'm sure we've all seen those kind of iceberg analogies where there's, so much more going on below the surface, which is your mission, your vision, your values, your messaging, your tone of voice. All of that stuff makes up your brand, and then how it looks is based on that stuff. So you can't do the visuals effectively until you know the stuff below the surface. Otherwise, quite often you'll make something look pretty, but it won't actually speak to your target market. It won't actually differentiate yourself against competitors effectively, and it might give your brand the wrong brand perception in the market as well, which can be highly damaging. So you've got to start with that kind of strategy piece first.
Yeah, I agree. I think the logo is literally just one creative output of like a series of events that has led to a decision. But to approach it slightly differently, because I agree with everything you've just said there, you have to start with brand strategy. But I think if someone came to an agency of kind of our size and our clout saying, I need a rebrand, I just need a logo, I'd probably say you're not really ready to work with an agency yet, and actively say that, like, if you're at the inception of your business and you're literally looking for a logo because you're just launching a business and, you haven't necessarily got the time or money or resource to invest into all the brand strategy piece, building everything out, then I would strategically advise them to either jump on Canva, find a template that's going to work for you just to pump it out and get something so you can get going, or go and find a freelancer that can do something for 50 quid. We know that we can provide more value than that as an agency and base every decision in strategy. But if you are just trying to get the ball moving, then I will tell you that you're going to have to take the hit further down the line, and you will end up doing a double spend if you haven't done the strategy work. But at the same time, I do sympathise with people when they're like, oh my God, we've got a new business. Say you're an events business. I've got 10 weddings coming up in the summer and I just need something that says my name that I can put on our staff t-shirts and get the ball rolling. Fine. But that's not where I don't think I'd engage with an agency to do that. I'd actively engage with an agency to have the conversation that I've just detailed there. But there's probably much more affordable solutions out there that will stop that gap. Do you see what I mean? Or provide a good stopgap for it. But I would always then start thinking about, okay, what are our brand values? What do we really represent? And then come back to the brand discussion at some point, because that can really impact your business and perception of your business, right?
At some point at the start, you're like you're saying, that's like the whole messy action's better than no action. You just got to get rolling, and that's absolutely fine. Do it, then figure out who you are as a business, and then later down the line, once you've kind of figured out the operations side of it and all of that and who you actually are, and that's not going to change loads, then dive back into the strategy side of it and let's actually think about the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan. That I think that makes sense.
It comes down to the whole it depends, doesn't it? It's I'm sure we could pump you out a logo, but what is that really solving? It's probably that you've actually got other problems that you're trying to solve, and you think that just having a new logo is going to solve that problem, whereas that's probably not what you're doing. But even like big brands, like, and if you go, I encourage anyone who's maybe thinking about doing this, go and have a look at some legacy logos of like Google or like Apple or whatever, and seeing the development of it, where obviously each time they've gone, do you know what, we need to go back to the drawing board, work out what we are, reassess what our brand is and what our values are and what we're trying to achieve, and then go and do the design work again. And there's all these iterations. Like it's like the Burger King rebrand recently. Have you seen that? I think it was like a couple of years ago, and they've obviously gone, oh, we need a new logo, but I doubt anyone there was just like, oh, we need a new logo. It was based in our target audiences, preferences have shifted, like the perception of our brand needs to shift along with that. How can we make an aesthetic change that strategically solve that problem?
I think it's a really easy misconception for people that aren't in marketing and branding to make, that the brand is just the logo, because when you do see rebrands, right, they just put the old logo next to the new logo and they're like, oh, all they've done is change that. But what people really need to understand is everything that sits underneath that, is that it's the experience, it's the way the brand makes you feel, it's all of the tone of voice, the messaging, the everything that sits underneath the brand that's important for people to understand. And it's easy to get caught up in thinking it's just a logo, which is just a fraction of what branding is. But when people dig a little bit deeper, they're like, oh, okay, so it is about how we make our customers feel, what we stand for, what our brand values are, everything like that. And then I think at that point, they're like, oh, okay, it's well worth investing in getting this stuff really nailed down and right before we then start altering the logo and things like that.
It's the foundations of every business, really. You know, it's like building a house without any cement or whatever foundations are meant to be. It's like building a house without it, and just, you know, focusing on the pictures that are going to hang on the walls, which is like the fun bit. But without the foundations, it all kind of just falls flat. And when you were mentioning before, you know, when you see these big rebrands, say Burger King, etc., you got the old logo and the new logo, and if you looked up how much they would have paid for that, you know, it's in the millions. And people are like, I can't believe they'd spend millions on, you know, that rebrand. That's absolutely mental, just for this little logo. I could create that in clip art or whatever. And it's like, that's not where the millions went.
It's not what
the
you're
millions
for,
went in crazy amounts of like target market research, competitor research, you know, analyzing behavioral trends, etc. You know, that's where the money goes. That's just the end product that you see.
I like the metaphor about the car. So it's like respraying the car is like what the aesthetic or the logo looks like, but actually changing the engine and everything like that is kind of like the deeper level of branding.
And what makes it run.
You can't just respray the car and expect it to go faster. You need to look at the whole.
Might feel like it goes faster if it's red, though.
Red cars always go faster. So we've educated the client and they're now on board with branding. What's the process that we would take them on as an agency
to launch the brand, or
from start to finish? So they're keen to either start a new brand or rebrand. What do we do as an agency to help them work out who they are, what they stand for, and then come out with the output of their brand new stunning brand at the end of it?
Well, for us, we like to do like an interactive workshop, which generally takes place over a full day. And this is essentially us not telling you what your brand should be. This is about us kind of pulling it out of you, like the client. So we'll work through like multiple different exercises with the key stakeholders in the company. And it very much works as just like helping them listen to each other as well, because quite often they won't realize that they've all actually got separate views of what their brand should be. So it's the perfect like meeting space just for them to generally like argue over their brand.
Always gets a bit spicy, doesn't it?
We can sit there and essentially mediate it whilst noting down everything that's being said in a guided kind of way, which allows us to kind of pull out the key messaging and then go away, do our own research, dive a bit deeper into competitors, etc., and then hopefully be able to walk away with things like their mission, their vision, figuring out their tone of voice once we've looked at their difference and their why, etc. And then from there, we can then look at kind of key messaging and like story frameworks and things like that to support all of their marketing, which would then go into Marcus's kind of arena. And then that, once we've got that base, we can also hand over to our designers to do the fun bit of bringing some of the aesthetic stuff to life. But yeah, on to you for the marketing side of it, I guess.
I mean, I think there's no sort of right or wrong way to launch a brand, I guess. Like you're basically taking something to market. You've got this new identity, you've got this new shiny car, and then it's just a case of getting it out there. Like, I mean, if your brand is what you are, your marketing is like how you're then telling everyone what you are, whether that's through stories or whether that's through digital advertising, whether that's through out-of-home advertising, etc. So there isn't really like a this is the way you do it, but essentially, obviously, there's all the tick box stuff like updating all your digital channels and like ensuring everyone in your team has got the access to the new tone of voice stuff because they're representatives of your brand. But I think it really comes down to ensuring that everyone company-wide knows what you're now trying to achieve with this new aesthetic or new brand and this new identity, because I think a lot of people fall short with that, and they might engage, say, the marketing team and then the C-suite, and they're like, hey guys, we've got this new brand, brilliant, you know, the CEO gets new gilet with new logo on, it's like, sweet, I'm good to go. But then the whole team aren't really living the new kind of brand values, and they don't know. And I think unless you're doing like a series of internal exercises to get everyone up to speed, probably need to distribute some sort of deck and make sure people have read it and be like, okay, this is what we're doing now. Because there's nothing worse than sort of like a disjointed brand when you're setting expectations externally for a new visual identity and a way of acting, but then when you all the customer touch points then feel ajar with the actual brand or the kind of expectations you're trying to set. So there's the inward piece or internal piece first, and then externally you've just got to really lean into all the values that you've now associated with the aesthetic and find a way to talk about them and tell your new stories, which is obviously all done through content, whatever that looks like, and then kind of any other marketing placements outside. So
and it's so different for every business, right?
For sure.
Like it could be one brand, you focus on the uniform, the way people pick up the phone, the emails that you send. Another brand could be the social media content, the website, and a sign outside their building. Like there's so many different touch points for different brands. It's making sure that you do the discovery in the first place to work out exactly who you are, what your values are, who you're talking to, and then all the channels that you're going to be using where you can make sure your brand's consistent and you're living and breathing your brand values through all of those channels as well.
Absolutely. And I think like obviously after you've done, I mean it depends which way you come to it. Sometimes you do marketing strategy first and you realize you need to do a rebrand, or sometimes you do a rebrand then you're like, how do we take it to market? So there's never really kind of like one concrete
size fits all.
One size fits all, but it all needs to be based in strategic thinking is the key takeaway, I think.
I think the common part of it is that you always do that discovery, strategy, internal, external comms. Like that's kind of like the general pathway, but the exact way you get there could be.
I think a really good strategy that is pretty much applicable for everyone is like take your audience on the journey with you. I think a lot of people are kind of scared to be like, oh, we're going for a rebrand, it needs to be hush hush before
big
this.
Surprise,
big surprise. And it's like, I don't really think there is that much equity in the surprise anymore. I think there's more value in bringing your audience along with you.
They feel like they're part of it.
Sort of like a tension and release process where you kind of drop little bits and bobs and little hints and then invite people to have a say, especially if they're if you've got like a closed group audience, for example, like a WhatsApp group, and you can bring them along with you and be like, what do you think, guys? And do polls and things like that. And that's a great strategy in this day and age, I think.
That's this day and age especially, you see loads of brands doing that now, don't you? Like doing the behind the scenes journey, and then you get buy-in from your whole audience before it's even happened. I know there was looking at Gap years ago, changed their whole branding and didn't communicate anything and just decided just to swap the logos and change their branding on their websites. And it caused like a mass drop in sales. They had such a legacy brand and all this buy-in from their like heritage customers, and they expected to be able to just change something that meant so much to so many people because there was no communication around it at all. So that communication point is so important. And like you were saying before about like communicating with your team as well, like getting that buy-in internally first is so important.
Because you have to have everyone on board when you're doing this sort of stuff.
Sounds like there's a gap in their comms.
There is.
Sorry,
but no, I
couldn't
think
help it.
Just echoing what you were saying there with Gap recently, and I was reading yesterday actually about when Tropicana did this, and I don't know if you saw
they
it.
They got rid of their orange and straw.
And you really need to, before you're doing any of this stuff, which would be part of the strategy, is like identifying where that value sits with your audience. So they had obviously such strong associations with their typeface, and it was so identifiable when you were looking at like a shelf of orange juices. I always buy Tropicana there's the font or whatever, there's the aesthetic I'm used to,
Yeah.
that's the one I want. And then they changed their carton and changed everything. And like you said with Gap, massive drop
Yeah,
off.
just lost all their brand equity.
Lost
didn't
all their
they?
brand
Yeah.
equity, lost their kind of like key identifiers, the colours were different, the font was different, and all of a sudden they've just started dropping off
Plummet,
because
yeah.
no one could identify their product on the shelf anymore.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to be thinking, oh, this looks really cool, or that this is now really like
Yeah,
up
that's
to
what
date
everyone's
with what current
doing, yeah.
aesthetics are. But really, that's just part of the problem. The other problem is like, okay, what are the associations we've got with this brand, and how do we maintain that whilst we go through this aesthetic change?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
I think Burberry did similar, didn't they? Because there was such a phase, especially in the luxury market, of all these like premium brands that were once really quite intricate in their branding and very traditional, but all of a sudden all of them just went for a really basic sans serif font, just printed.
Yeah.
Burberry looked the same as, I can't remember the others, Dior,
Yeah.
all looked the same. Burberry again lost so much brand equity from doing that and just blended in with everyone else, and now they've completely flipped, realised they've made
Gone
a
back.
mistake,
And gone
gone
back.
back again.
Yeah.
They
Was-
called it blanding, I think. when
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were
well, there
was
stripping
that
all
period
the-
of time,
stripping
'cause
all personality
all
out
look
of
the
their
same.
brands, weren't
Definitely,
they?
and everyone they
Mad.
kind of just like just everything looked the same, didn't it?
Yeah.
Every brand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
for
So
sure.
yeah, it's not always best to follow trends either. I
No.
think it's good to understand who you are, what makes you different, and then play on that. Don't just do what everyone else is doing because
Yeah.
for the sake of it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but and you would never know that unless you actually
Did
looked
the
into
strategies.
the strategy.
Exactly, and
yeah.
understanding your people, your community, and what they want.
Yeah.
Don't always just have the business owner wanting something to look a certain
Yeah.
way. And I think that's our job, is to challenge the brief sometimes.
Definitely.
People come to us and say we want a brand or we want to rebrand, and we need to dig into the reasons why they want a rebrand.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't always need one.
No,
No.
and
Yeah.
it shouldn't be based on a lot of personal kind of wants and needs, which
Yeah.
often
Yeah,
a
like,
business owner goes in, I like purple, it
Yeah,
should be
brilliant.
purple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this font, it should be this.
Yeah.
Okay, but what does your actual audience want? If your goal is to make money and build your audience, then
Yeah.
shouldn't we base it on their wants and needs rather than yours?
Yeah.
100%.
Well, yeah, because how often do you hear like Yvonne from accounts likes
Yeah.
this font?
Yeah.
Can we?
Yeah.
So therefore, that needs to be the brand. And you're like, hold on.
Yeah.
Like, this is about the people outside your business. And
Yeah.
It represents you guys, but it's about understanding your audience and what they want. It's not
Yeah.
based on Paul from finances. He likes purple, like you said.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
just the worst thing, and you see it so much,
Oh,
right?
yeah. all the
Designed
time.
by
Committee.
is
Yeah.
always a bad thing, I think. And
Mhm.
yeah, I've seen Charlie and you in some of the strategy sessions, and it's really interesting sometimes watching all the different opinions fly in.
Mm.
And I think you guys do a great job of mediating and making sure that we still move forward. It's our job to extract everyone's opinions, pull them in, but also make sure that we understand the customer and do the market research on what
Yeah.
they want to,
Mm.
and then come up with a brand that the people obviously like and buy into, but more importantly, the customers fall in love with, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
The most important bit, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so moving on to scenario 2.
Yeah, very long-winded way of answering
They're
that
all
question.
that long.
Basically,
we're
a
going
brand
to be
is
here a
more than a
while.
logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is all about lead gen panic, and a lot of people come to us often expecting us to be able to get leads for them like that. The sales team come to us and say the pipeline's empty. What's our first move for clients?
No pressure.
I was going to say, first of all, it's quite easy, I think, when your lead queue is empty to instantly blame marketing or branding or sales or whatever. But I think it was first, before we go into absolute panic mode, like, let's figure out what the leak might actually be, because it could be something, operationally that's causing some problems. It could be people not completing work in time, not doing it to a good enough standard that's causing no repeat customers, etc. Or maybe we're not valuing our current customers and there's bad word of mouth going around and things like that. So I think just doing a bit of an audit first before going straight into going like, let's spend tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Like, let's again slow down, think before we do anything, and then have a look at the channels. I guess from my perspective, I'd be looking like, when is the last time we've been doing brand awareness? Like, do people really hear about us now? Maybe like for ages we've just had like leads just like kind of pouring in, so we've not really had to think about it, and so there's been a bit of a gap in brand awareness. So maybe there's that side of it, or maybe it's like the organic kind of posting from the leadership team, has that dropped off and that's causing an issue?
Oh, I think that's the sales team.
Yeah. Sales team, bring it up now.
Charlie, do you want to get that?
And then, yeah, if that's all looking hunky-dory and that's all working quite well, then I think you can start looking into potentially some form of like lead funnel that we could do. And that's not to say it should be like a hard sale lead funnel. Maybe we need to do something that's like free and easy to consume just to get a volume of leads in, and then look at sales down the line. It also, as we always keep saying, it depends. Like it depends on the cost of the investment as to what the funnel is going to look like. Is it going to be just like an easy, quick decision so that the funnel can go straight to a sale? Fine. Is it going to be like a long process? Okay, do we need to do like a webinar, an event that leads into something else, that leads into something else, that fills up the calendars? So yeah, it depends.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing. I think the first thing I would say is, why on earth is this the first time I'm hearing about it? Like, knowing you've got no leads in your pipeline is exactly the wrong time to start marketing.
Yeah,
right?
Panic decisions.
I mean, and a lot of people, I think the approach is they'll really rely on performance marketing, and that will start building out their pipeline. And obviously, every time you do performance marketing, you're going to get a peak in sales, and you're going to get an influx of leads, and then it's going to drop off as soon as you turn everything off. So if you haven't got kind of like an always-on strategy, as well as that, that's a bit of a red flag, because that will lead exactly to that conversation. Commercial director, we've got no leads. I was like, well, I could have done with knowing that last quarter when we spent all of our money on performance marketing because we thought we were doing well, but we've invested none in brand, and now we've got no no money left.
Yeah, the best time to build a leads funnel was when you don't actually really need it.
Yeah.
It's to have it there set up.
For sure,
And like you said, always on.
Always on.
Even if it's very small budgets, just always on, trickling away in the background.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people worry with marketing far too much about new customer acquisition and aren't worried about existing audience nurture. And again, if you've just been doing performance marketing without any audience nurturing, so you're not maintaining kind of your audience and giving them a reason to stay with you, maybe not communicated any things that you could potentially upsell or to make their life easier, if you haven't invested in customer or client success managers and you've just got salespeople, then no wonder you're in that situation. And you can obviously, the obvious thing to do is like really ramp up the marketing activations that you have in your arsenal. But at the same time, I would be picking up the phone to everyone on our existing client list and being like, you're already in our shop, you're already paying us for something. Is there another problem that we can solve?
Yeah, it's
for
much
you?
cheaper to retain what you've already got than go searching for new ones all the time.
Yeah, they've already got a relationship with you. They've already got that brand loyalty. Why are you trying to find all these new customers when you could potentially maximize and retain? There's some great customers that you've got already.
I think retention is so important, and people just don't really appreciate that in a marketing perspective that much. But ensuring that people have a reason to follow you and maintain looking at you is as important as getting new people to follow you. But
I think we've had conversations with clients recently where it's basically this exact scenario of them going, we need this many leads coming in the pipeline, not got enough leads. Okay, are you doing any form of brand awareness? No, we don't want to do brand awareness. We need leads right now. And it's like, but no one knows you, trusts you. So who's going to become your lead when we turn on that lead funnel?
And you might then actually generate some leads and get some conversions.
But
that's
then the
naturally
same
happens
through brand awareness anyway.
But these brand new leads might not buy straight away either. They need nurturing and looking after them just as your existing clients.
It's a long-term strategy. That's again, like when I was mentioning before, like the road to signing these leads is totally dependent on your business, and the business I'm thinking of, it's such a high investment that these people would have to take. So the road is long. So you also need to have people who are judging it willing to wait 6 months, a year, etc., to nurture these leads. And when you get the green light, that is still from that campaign that's started a year ago.
Well, especially if you're in the B2B space, people are making sort of budget decisions at best 4 times a year when it comes to quarters. Most likely in September time, they'll probably start thinking about what their spend's going to be for next year. So if you've missed that kind of budgeting period, then
you've missed the quarter.
You've missed the call on it. But one thing as well that I often see with people is that there's just they've probably got a lot more people that they could actually reach out to in their existing audience that basically has been lost in their kind of digital architecture. So I mean, a client recently, they're like, oh yeah, we've got these 6,000 people there that have come through our point of sale system, but they're not in our email database. And you're like, right, so you've got 6,000 people that have bought from you in the past. and you haven't got them in your CRM system and you're doing nothing to nurture them. And I guarantee that a lot of sales teams, because everyone has their own individual ways of doing things, fine. Especially if you've not had someone kind of implement like a proper sales strategy and this is the system you're using and whatever. But I can guarantee someone's probably got like a little list in their Outlook of like all these people that I should remember to reach out to that none of the team know of, and all of those sort of things. So I would get everyone in a room and be like, right, guys, has anyone got these little secret lists anywhere or contacts that haven't made their way into our CRM system that we don't know about, and start there, because they're quite often there are gaps, especially if you haven't got like a pretty comprehensive CRM system or sales management system. Definitely.
And you need marketing and sales to work together. They're different things, but they need to work together for sure.
I think quite a lot of people get that confused as well, don't they? The difference between sales and marketing as well. So
you can't just expect to do the best marketing campaign in the world and then sales to fall into your lap. You still need to sell to them.
Take it over the line.
Yeah, definitely. And I think marketing's primary objective is obviously to get the leads and get the traffic and stuff like that, but you do need to make sure that you're getting the right type of leads, because it'd be quite easy to manipulate things to make it so you get loads of leads. And we've also had this discussion with people in the past where it's like, we've got loads of leads, but like they're
not converting.
They're not converting, and it's like, well, you look actually in more detail and it's like, oh, well, we only sell in England, and then all of a sudden you've got loads of people from Delhi in your list. You're like, marketing, what have you done there? What's going on? And that's quite
it's a dangerous game sometimes when you're chasing the wrong metrics, isn't it?
Definitely.
Vanity metrics.
Which we'll talk about shortly, actually.
Okay, sorry. Don't jump ahead.
Spoiler alert. Right. It is actually the next one. So vanity metrics trap. A client goes viral but isn't getting any conversions. What do we do?
I mean, first of all, I would probably sit everyone down and be like, right, guys, going viral, great. What have you gone viral for? If you've gone viral for doing a TikTok dance video that all your kind of like employer brand people have done and it's gone viral, great for brand awareness and maybe getting more people to see who you are, but the likelihood that that is going to lead to conversions is a different thing. I think it's just important to separate those two things, right? Because the likelihood that you're going viral nowadays for something that is going to get you loads of sales is probably quite low.
Unlikely,
and it's a very different metric. Like on socials and things like that, where you're going to go viral, you're basically aiming to entertain people to make sure you're front of mind when they're ready to convert, right? So you might go viral, but they might not all be ready to buy yet. So you're not going to get conversions from that. So going viral, great. Don't stop trying to do that. You make sure you're trying to go viral for the right reasons, but you also have to be like aware that that's not necessarily going to generate loads of leads, but make sure you've got that architecture there to capture people. So if you've got, I don't know, 1 million likes, of which you want to make sure you've got like 1,000 people that have actually subscribed to a mailing list or caught some data from some of them, I think is the way to go.
It's guys defining your success, isn't it? Like, is your success metric to go viral, or is it to get leads? If you've gone viral and you haven't got leads from it, like you say, it's fine. It's brand awareness. Don't stress over it. It's still something good, but you're not going to get them all converting. If it was on something that was to make sales and you haven't converted many sales, then this is where we need to figure out like what's gone wrong in the funnel, essentially. Like, is it something, if you're getting all the clicks through and people are coming to your site, then it's something on your landing page that isn't speaking to them.
That's right, this camera's on.
Okay. It's something on the landing page that isn't speaking to them. So is it your messaging? Is it kind of too many clicks to get to where they want to be? Is it not benefit driven enough? Does it sound a bit boring? If it's to book in a call, there are too many steps I have to take. You'd need to like review the funnel and figure out like why didn't it convert, because we got them through to the landing page. So kind of figure out where the drop off is and then analyze that and then A/B test some different versions.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to get caught into the trap of trying to get loads of engagement on your content. You could have two pieces of content. One gets 1 million views, gets loads of comments on it, you get more followers from it, but you actually get 0 sales. You could put out another piece of content, it gets 20 likes, but you actually get 3 DMs from it, and then 1 paying client that ends up being, a few £1,000 worth of business. That content should be the stuff that we're measuring as the successful content, not the 1 million views one. So don't chase the engagement.
Don't chase viral.
Measure the right stuff. Okay, so the next scenario is we don't need video. So a B2B brand says video isn't for them. How do we change their mind?
I'm going to let Marcus
Yeah.
kick this off
Just
because
see
you're going to
my
have
eyes
some
light up.
opinions.
I mean, it really comes down to like, it depends again, but let's get that out of the way. I think so many people in this day and age are like, we must do video, we must do video, we must do video, without actually considering whether they must do video, right? Because they're like, everyone's on Instagram, everyone's on TikTok, and they're like, everyone's doing video, we need to do video. Dependent on the industry that you're in, don't pigeonhole yourself, pigeonhole yourself into this box where you're like, we must do video. If you're like a wealth manager and you're dealing with like, your clients are of a certain ilk that don't even know what TikTok is, you probably or might not need to be doing video. Same with if you're building like your personal brand. Like a lot of people are like, video for personal brand is like the 100% what you should be doing. On my LinkedIn, for example, the data is in from the last year of me doing posts that my video posts plummet in engagement in comparison. Now it's hard to measure obviously the value that I've provided to someone through a video that might have nurtured them to becoming a lead, but this is where the it depends come in, because if you're looking for engagement, for example, and you're in my position, you're trying to grow your personal brand, and I'm like, right, I want to get from 10 likes a post to 60 likes a post consistently, and I've done the video now, and I've over the course of like a year, and I realize that the video is not working, then video isn't for you. But the blanket statement of like, we need video, which has kind of been around in marketing over the last 6 years that I've worked in marketing, everyone bangs on about video. I'm like, that is one pillar of a content strategy at best. That isn't a strategy in and of itself. It's way bigger than that. Do a lot of people probably need video? Yes. Is it going to solve all your problems? Absolutely not. And I really hate it when everyone in marketing seems to be like, video, you just need video. And it's like, you probably do, but it's not going to just make all your problems go away because all of a sudden you're posting on TikTok. It's like,
and there's different ways of approaching it, isn't it? Like, okay, maybe you don't feel comfortable doing, daily TikTok videos where they're like off the cuff and you're like the CEO of like a wealth management firm. Like, maybe that doesn't work, but maybe you do feel comfortable doing some sort of like intro video that sits on like a hidden page on the website, or that, there's different ways of integrating video that doesn't have to be cheesy, on Instagram vibes. So yeah, figuring out, does it work for you? And also, if you're going to do it on socials, are you going to be able to actually stay consistent with it? Because it's all very well and good, big burst of energy at the start, then it all just drops off. Like, that's not great either. We need to figure out, like, for you, what's actually achievable long term.
Yeah, you have to consider resources. And I think so many people, like, if you're just going to pump out shit video and you know that you're, like, super awkward on video if you're trying to build your personal brand, but you're a really good writer, then go and write your posts. Don't, like, lean into your skill set, especially when you haven't got, like, all the resources in the world. Don't listen to insert TikTok influencer here saying everyone needs to be doing video. It's like, you can do that.
It's definitely horses for courses, I think. And B2C, I think video's got a much more prominent place than B2B, but B2B businesses definitely shouldn't overlook it. They should definitely consider it and see how they could potentially leverage it, because there are some massive upsides to using video. Things like one small 30-second explainer from a founder could remove 10 pages of website copy, or not remove, but work just as effective or be more impactful. The other good thing about video is people can kind of get to know you on a personal level. Just writing in photos, you don't actually feel like you know the person, whereas seeing video content, you feel like I could potentially speak to that person. And also, video allows you to inject a lot of emotion into stuff. So specifically with adverts, I think video works really well because you can evoke emotions way more than static content. So there's definitely a place for video in people's broader marketing strategy, and it shouldn't be completely written off.
No.
But lean into your resources, lean into your skills, and lean into what you're actually trying to achieve, and then see if video can form part of your overarching strategy.
Just base it in strategy.
What you're trying to achieve, I think, is the key thing, and then figuring out how can you get there that you feel comfortable with. Like, video for B2B might only sit in your employer brand, in the employee training and things like that, because that works for the brand perception you're trying to give to your employees. But to your clients, like, it just doesn't match quite well. Like you were saying, like, your clients wouldn't expect to see videos on TikTok, and it would actually do you brand damage, because you'd be it'd be mismatched, it'd be weird.
Yeah, I think you've
But
nailed it
employer
there.
brand, it would be perfect. So
Yeah, because I think video can be super effective in internal comms, onboarding, like CEO messaging, like stuff like that. Video can be great to push out to your internal team, but you might not want to push that out to your broader clients.
Yeah,
Especially.
and it gives you a bit of, sorry, I was just going to say, it gives you a bit of a test bed for getting into the flow as well. If you're doing it internally, see how you feel about it, then you feel comfortable, and then maybe you do take it externally. Just gives you a bit of a chance to try it out, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was just going to say one more thing I hate about video. It's the, so if we're dealing with like a SaaS product and you're dealing with your client success manager, which is great, and they're like, I've recorded you a video so you can follow along the steps, and I've spoken about this on my other podcast before as well, and then you get the video and you haven't opened that email for like a week. They've done a software update in the meantime, so the system is no longer the same, and you're now trying to follow along this 10-minute video of someone using a system with a screen share that no longer actually functions like that. And I'm just like, I would have just preferred it if you did it for me, because that would have really helped. Or given me like a list of instructions that I can refer to, because I might not have my headphones with me that day, for example, in the office and stuff like that. And I think everyone's just go-to is video now. And I'm like, there are people that hate this, but no one seems to be talking about it. I think the blanket statement should be everyone needs content, not everyone needs video. And but you just hear everyone needs video, predominantly on videos.
I guess it's working out the best format for you, because if you're going to have loads of updates to your software and you're not going to keep on top of video, you probably should just do text or screenshots or something like that instead, so it's easier to update.
And in this day and age, it's so easy to repurpose everything you've done in video. Do you see what I mean? Like maybe record a video, then use AI to generate the transcript that then turns it into a blog, and then make sure you've got all the kind of content types solved, and then take that to your audience, rather than just leading with one content type, assuming it's going to solve all your problems, and then be like, oh, job done, we've got a 3-minute video there, great.
And then you can test what your audience reacts best to. Are they opening more of the blogs to read than watching the videos all the way through, which is all stuff you can look at analytics for, and then it means that you're not just pumping out videos for no reason or pumping out blogs for no reason. You can figure out which one's converting. Let's do more of that.
Absolutely.
Cool. Video nailed. So the next one is about talent and culture blind spots. So a brand looks really great externally, but internally the team's disengaged. What's the fix?
Tricky one.
Yeah, curveball.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's both a marketing problem and like an operational problem if they're not bought in.
And a brand problem as well.
Yeah, and a brand problem.
It's an everything problem.
It's an everything problem. Yeah.
I think there's some sort of misalignment there at some stage, where quite a lot of the time it will be because the brand is saying one thing externally, maybe talking about their employer brand even, we're this, we're that, we give come join us and we'll give you, flexible working and this benefit and this benefit. And then you've got the employees inside going, they're unflexible, I'm not allowed this, I'm not allowed that, I never got that benefit, I never got that bonus, the communication's rubbish. And that would cause some serious disconnect and some unhappy kind of internal teams.
You'd be better off almost not saying it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like trying to appear a certain way, like talking the talk but not walking the walk is a dreadful thing to do for internal culture, I think.
One of the main things you would do if you're looking at your employer brand, the first thing you do, you don't just go, what do we want our employer brand to be, and just start, pushing it out and marketing it and making it sound all shiny. The first thing you do is you do internal surveys and focus groups with your current employees and figure out how they currently feel about the business, what they think's great about it, what they don't think's great about it. Deal with that first, so you can make sure as soon as you go out to external that your internal teams are also singing your praises and it all lines up, and they're also living the values that you're pushing externally as well.
Yeah, you have to make sure you've got that buy-in from everyone and they know the direction of travel, a bit like we were saying earlier with the brand piece, that everyone's living that before you start telling everyone else that you're doing that, because otherwise you'll have someone being like, are we doing that? Is that what we do?
Bullshit. Straight away.
I think what Charlie said about getting everyone, the existing employees, getting feedback from them, listening to them, doing surveys, having focus groups, really understanding them before trying to position yourself as something completely different.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and it makes it quantifiable as well, right? Because if you say insert survey here or focus group here, 6 months down the line after you've implemented these changes and you start shouting about it, do the same survey again, you're like, oh, all of a sudden everyone thinks this is a great place to work, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's
if
great.
you haven't measured anything in the first instance, then you don't actually know whether you've had the impact that you set out to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be quite painful and quite scary, right? Especially if you know as a business owner, there's like there's some weird ongoings. I think quite a lot of people are like, right, head sand buried. But the only way to go forward and also not give yourselves brand reputation damage, which you'll be spending a lot of money going out and kind of advertising. So you want to make sure the inside is all aligned first. I've lost my train of thought. What I was saying. Yeah, that's gone.
Yeah, I think it just comes to making sure that internal alignment's nailed first before you start. Yeah.
Yeah,
before you
as
start
simple as that. You can make
transparency.
Transparency, that's the one.
And you can't attract that talent unless the internal team's going to align and gel with that, because if they come into your business being recruited on all these promises and perception, and then they come there and it's completely different.
Yeah, and your actual employees are like saying to them like, oh God, you're going to have a shit time working here. It's like, oh crap.
Yeah, it's just they're not going to last. Well, they're going to leave before they've even started.
Yeah.
So, yeah, cool.
I think so.
All right. Next one is ESG for the sake of optics. So a corporate real estate group wants to lead on sustainability but hasn't made internal shifts. So there's no green policies, no benchmarks, no real stories to tell. They want to look good on social, but it's all surface. How do we steer them towards meaningful ESG efforts before they start telling the world about them?
Oh, so they've not actually done anything, but they want to appear.
They want to greenwash.
Yeah, greenwashing basically.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think first and foremost you have to, again, walk the walk before you talk the talk. But a lot of people will probably be fearful of, like, basically, if you haven't done anything yet, just invite people to see behind the scenes of you doing stuff, because you can, again, invite them along on the story. And if you acknowledge that you have a problem externally, so if you say like, oh, we've worked out that we're making jeans in China and it's using this much water and that's terrible for the environment, but now we know, that's a good thing to let people know that you're exploring into it, rather than just saying, rather than making it hush hush and saying, basically lying to people. Just hold your hands up and be honest and be authentic.
Yeah,
and
people respect that.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Transparency goes a long way, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to like greenwashing stuff or anything to do with the environment or ESG. You can't, in this day and age, beat around the bush. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to put your hands up, say you're aware of the problem, and say you're working towards a solution.
Yeah, but don't do that if you're not. Don't just say there's the problem and we're going to be solving it, and then don't talk about it again until you next say we've identified the problem.
It's still there. We've done nothing.
Can't just keep doing that. Like you have to implement
an actionable plan towards actually.
But like you don't need to set these grand goals that just aren't achievable. Like start small. Like do some really small little goals. Whether it's like a cycle to work scheme for like some of your employees, you can put that on socials. That doesn't take much. Or like you're saying, if you're highlighting an issue your business has got, then just a small roadmap to get there. It doesn't have to be, and we're going to move all production in the next 10 days. Like make it small little things, take people on the journey behind the scenes, and they'll respect your honesty.
And it needs to align as well. You can't be like a fast food company and then sponsor a diabetes charity or something.
You have to align it with what you're doing.
It needs to be real.
I do think people need to acknowledge that commercial entities are exactly that, and whilst everyone should be cleaning up their act, like I think it's a misexpectation for every commercial entity to end up being like this green save the future entity. Do you know what I mean? I just don't think that that's the way the world's going to go, but I think it would be great if there was more opportunities for consumers to buy into brands that were doing this stuff. And a lot of people already are, but they're not talking about it. Or, like, historically, people have always lied about it. So when people are talking about it, they don't believe it anyway. So it would be great if there was more opportunities to kind of, what's it called, like conscious consumption.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you guys, but I don't really believe it nowadays when I see if I see a brand saying they're doing X, Y, Z, unless I've like seen the evidence or lived it, I really struggle to believe it.
I think, it's the generations, our generation, generations below, etc., like they're on it. They're not stupid. So it might have worked before to greenwash. It doesn't work now. Like the information is out there, they can figure it out. So like that's going to do you worse brand disruption if you say something huge and it's a lie, rather than, like we're saying, just be honest and set a small goal. Like that's going to be way better for your brand than just trying to greenwash,
because people will find out the truth comes out in the wash, especially with the day and age we live in, with social media, everyone having a camera phone in their pocket. So I think honesty, transparency, being authentic, and I think setting realistic goals as well, I think is really important.
Bite-sized chunks, and some progress is better than no progress. So that's it. But controversial question: do we actually curveball? But do we actually, or to what extent do you actually think people want ethical brands?
I think especially Gen Z and below, like a huge percent.
Until they want something from Boohoo.com or ASOS.
Well, I mean,
Amazon.
like, those businesses are slowly starting to feel the effects of people wanting more ethical choices. I'm not saying it's definitely not a yes and no, but I think more and more. I think it's a real curveball, and I think what people say sometimes misaligns with what they actually do and how they act.
1000%.
People say they want organic food and stuff like this, but everyone's buying in supermarkets.
What's that? £7 cucumber.
So I think people need to vote with their feet and their pound, but I think affordability versus their own ethical stance misaligns.
Well, it's tricky. It's cost living crisis still. Things are getting harder and harder, so it's hard to have ethics and also have the societal pressures of following trends and all of that as well.